Ladies and gents, welcome to this video. My name is Taylor Benturd. A pleasure to have you here and talk about half-lives, which is a concept I've talked about before, but never really, I think, went too deep on. This is a concept, a mental model that I really think can help you grow your agency much faster. When you understand it, it's going to be like this aha enlightening moment of like, ooh, this is a really powerful thing for me to just contemplate on after you watch this video. So, first of all, what is a half-life? A half-life is a concept or term that's used most commonly in the pharmaceutical industry. Half-life is, as you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, the time required for a quantity to reduce to half of its initial value. So, ibuprofen, Advil, if you take this thing pretty much after 1.8 hours to 2 hours, it's lost half of its, its effect that it could possibly have on your body. So, how does this apply into growing your agency? Okay, well, first of all, THM, Trojan Horse Marketing, very popular video that this channel, that gets a lot of attention on this channel. If you're not familiar with that agency lead gen strategy, I highly recommend you check out that video. But Trojan Horse Marketing, okay, let's say that you do one outreach. You send a horse. Fantastic. What is the half-life of you sending that extremely valuable automated video, or maybe it was manual, Trojan horse? What's the half-life of it? Well, for an action like that, if it's manual, it's about 2 seconds after the moment you send it. I mean, it's pretty much the moment you send it, it's pretty much dead. Now, if you build an automation that sends out the Trojan horses, now we're talking about a much longer half-life. Okay, if you build an automation and you train a team, and then you put someone in place to manage that team and run Trojan Horse Marketing as a system, which typically requires 1 to 2 virtual assistants. You really only need 1 to start out, and someone to manage the virtual assistant and approve the leads that the virtual assistant is finding, and approve the automated videos that this virtual assistant is building, and then of course sending out. So if you build that system, okay, and you automate it and you put somebody in place to manage it, wow, now we're talking about a long half-life. I don't know. It might be 1 year. It might be 2 years. It might be 6 months. It depends on, how long the virtual assistant stays with you and how long the person you put in place to manage the Trojan Horse Marketing system stays with you. Now, if you're the person who's managing the system and it's just dependent on the VA, well, that's great. The half-life will still be quite long, but you still have to run the system, so it's not quite as beautiful if you could delegate the whole thing. So anyways, the half-life goes up tremendously, opposed to if you're sending out outreaches manually, the half-life is quite short. It's an action that's really short. Here's another example of a really strong half-life. Hiring somebody to do something like managing clients. This one's pretty straightforward. If you manage 10 clients right now and you're like maxed out and you can't do anything to scale your agency, well, you need to take off those accounts from your plate, put them onto somebody else's, and let them manage the clients, and they'll probably do a better job than you, assuming you hire a good person, you train them very well, because they'll have more time to manage those accounts, because they're not trying to grow the business and do all these other things. Their sole role is pretty much revolves around managing these clients. So what is the half-life of this? Well, let's say I hire an account executive, and I put them, and they manage 5 accounts. Let's say they take half my accounts. Well, the half-life of that action that I just took is dependent upon how long the account executive stays with the company, right? So if that person stays with the company for 10 years, well, my action of hiring that person had a 5-year half-life. That's insane. See, now this is the kind of stuff that you really want to think about, because one action like hiring somebody, which is one of the best things you can do in your agency to scale it if you have the cash flow, hiring somebody is so legendary because you just kind of have to train them up front. It's got, a front loading effect in terms of the work that needs to be put in for the training period. Let's say it's 1 to 3 months. Great. 3 to 3 months goes by of training, and now it's just pretty much basic maintenance and management. Maybe you guys talk once or twice a week for a couple hours, no more than that. Amazing. Whereas you used to be spending 20 hours a week managing this account, and you got it down to 2 hours a week after a few months of work, now that you hired this person and trained them. So the half-life of that action is tremendous. And this is where you start wanting to ask yourself this magical question. What are some of the one-time actions that I can take that will have extremely long half-lives? And typically, when I think of half-life, I also think of like my time being most effective, but typically, what am I optimizing for? Okay, I want to scale my agency. How am I going to do that? What's the biggest bottleneck? What's the, another term I've used is asymmetric actions that I can take that'll have, the least amount of input and bring out the most output, so to speak. Not always does an asymmetric action have the best half-life, but it's another mental model to throw into the toolkit, so to speak. So when I'm thinking about asymmetric actions I can take, I'm also thinking about half-lives. So this is another example of half-life is YouTube. So I came onto YouTube because I learned about this half-life mental model. I was predominantly putting content out on Facebook, okay, for quite a few years, for like 3 years. Facebook and LinkedIn was my primary channel. Facebook more so than LinkedIn was my primary platform for putting out content and doing content marketing, whether it was for my agency, Better AMS, whether it was for the course I launched with my old partner, Sean, PPCM Accelerator, or even for the 1.0 version of Agency Enlighten, which was called Legion Enlighten. I primarily used Facebook for many years and never touched YouTube. Now, I had learned about half-life, and I noticed that, okay, Facebook's worked for me, but I'm putting all this time and energy into trying to scale on Facebook. And if I put out a really good piece of content, like a really good post, it might get like 100 likes. And then what? It dies. After how long? 24 hours. What's the half-life of a post on Facebook? Probably less than 12 hours, maybe 6. 70-80% of the likes and engagement that occurs in a post on Facebook happens within like the first 6 hours. It's probably a statistic. I'm probably somewhat close to it. So the half-life is really short. Now you compare that to YouTube. YouTube, a platform that has had exponential growth over the last few years. YouTube, if I put out a video on YouTube, that Trojan Horse marketing video I put out on YouTube 2 years ago, okay, it gets more views per month now than it did in the first year on average monthly. It's insane. The statistics are ridiculous. And I haven't looked at the statistics on that video for like 6 to 9 months. But last time I checked almost 6-9 months ago, it was still going up, which is crazy. So the content is much more evergreen, which evergreen could be also interpreted as half-life, same thing. How long is it going to last? And what's so beautiful about this is that if I would have just posted that Trojan Horse marketing video on Facebook, it wouldn't have had the reach that it's gotten on YouTube, right? And so some people might say, well, you should post everywhere. Yeah, that's true. You should. I think that's ideal, but I don't have the time to post everywhere all the time. So I've focused my energies at the time I have on one platform. And what allowed me to really feel confident about my decision choosing the platform of YouTube was this mental model of half-life and thinking, of course, really long term. So other examples I'm sure you can come up with in your agency, but the question you got to ask is basically, what are some of the one-time actions that can have extremely long-term half-lives that will be really beneficial for growing my agency? Now, again, it's not, this is just another mental model to throw into your consciousness. So, of course, there's other mental models, asymmetric actions I've spoke about, and other things which are extremely valuable and kind of tie into this one as well as kind of like an interconnected spider web. But hopefully this was valuable, okay? Hey, if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I post on YouTube occasionally, like kind of like tweets or like Facebook posts. YouTube allows you to post you can post like text with images and stuff. If you don't see that, it's probably because you're not subscribed. So hit the subscribe button so you get some of the custom posts that I post about. I release some stuff that is pretty cool, give notice of things before they happen. And also I post about certain ideas to get feedback from those of you who watch these videos and engage. So much love, everybody. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this. Ciao.